Welcome to Behind Closed Doors, the show that gives you an irresistible opportunity to get inside some incredible buildings that would usually be out of bounds to the likes of you or me, but that once a year open their doors and invite everybody in. On today's show, I'll be visiting the radical London building that quite literally turned architecture inside out. This is the money shot of the whole building. I'll be getting inside the most powerful financial building in the country. The decisions made here affect all of our lives. And I'll be going behind the scenes of a high-tech multimedia network. This is Charlie Luxton broadcasting live from London. Today I'll be focusing on buildings that revolve around money, and loads of it too. Buildings that are at the heart of the British economy, where success is measured in billions, not millions. So come with me behind closed doors and let's see how they express all that wealth. Welcome to architecture in the fast lane. So if you're addicted to architecture, or just a bit nosy, this is your opportunity to see some truly incredible buildings. When it comes to buildings that deal with money, there's only one place to start. The Bank of England. It is the daddy of financial institutions. It's where the interest rates are set, where billions of pounds of government gold is stored, and where bank notes are issued. It affects our daily lives and shapes the economy. But how does the architecture represent this importance? Well, I'm about to go inside and find out. And you'll be glad to hear that you can too, but only as a part of Open House. The Bank of England has been on Threadneedle Street in London since 1794. Originally designed by Sir John Soane, it was largely demolished and rebuilt in the 1920s to create more space. It's an incredible opportunity to get inside one of the most powerful financial institutions in the country. And we're about to see areas of the bank which are never usually open to the public. Right by the main entrance is this model of the bank. Now, this is actually John Soane's original scheme. It's the first time I've ever got a sense of the scale of this building, because it has this very blank, fortress-like wall all the way around the outside, and it's very low. It doesn't seem very big from the streets. It's enormous. It's about 3.5 acres. It's a city within a city. And what's even more amazing is that there's more space underground than there is above. The bank needs that underground space to store a massive 400 tons of gold. But this place is far more than a gold store. Above ground, economic experts analyse Britain's cash flow, set interest rates, and issue banknotes. Chief Cashier Andrew Bailey is the man whose signature appears on every new note.
And the reason that the Chief Cashier's signature has always appeared on the Bank of England banknotes is that each banknote says, "I promise to pay the bearer on demand," and it's me who has to make the promise. When I became Chief Cashier, I received a request from the banknote printing works to say, would I send them the signature that I wanted to be on the banknotes? So I went home, and the family were tremendously interested in this, so I just did some signatures in a felt tip pen. It had to be a black felt tip pen, and got the one. I thought, yep, that's the one. So after about 4 or 5 months, I got people, friends and family ringing me up saying, I've got one of your, of your notes. People often ask me, well, you know, how many Bank of England banknotes are there in circulation? And the answer at the moment today is a bit over £40 billion in value. And that's over 2 billion notes that we have to manage in circulation. So it's a very large number.
For the banking system to work, the notes in circulation must not exceed the value of the gold that's stored in the bank's vaults. And currently that's about £70 billion worth. But will they let me get down there and see any of it? Now, this bit of the bank isn't actually part of the open house tour, but I couldn't resist coming down here because it's one of the corridors that lead to the bank's bullion vaults. In fact, just over there I can see piles and piles of gold bullion. That's actually a complete lie. They wouldn't let me anywhere near it. But you do get a sense of the bank's fortress-like quality down here. But it hasn't always been quite like that, because in the 1830s, the bank received an anonymous letter from a man saying that he could get into the bullion vaults. And he organised to meet the governors down there one night. And sure enough, they were there waiting for him, and he popped up through the floorboards. He was a sewer man, had found an old drain that led straight underneath the bank vaults. For his honesty, they gave him 800 quid, which was a nice gesture, and obviously ordered a complete security review. After the break, I'll be continuing my tour of the Bank of England above ground and seeing one of the most important rooms in the country. The decisions made here affect all of our lives. And I'll be taking a dizzying ride up to the heights of a famous London landmark. Welcome back to Behind Closed Doors, the show that unlocks the hidden secrets of some of Britain's architectural gems. Every year, a series of events takes place in Britain in September, which offers the chance to take a peek around buildings which are normally either closed or restricted to the public. Today, I'm looking at buildings of money, and I've been granted privileged access to the Bank of England. Outside, all you really see of the bank is a thick, windowless wall, but behind closed doors, it's really rather special. I don't think I've ever been in a building with quite so many magnificent doors. I mean, look at these. These are bronze. They're very heavy, and they're wonderfully designed with this little light above them, and they're like this throughout the building. Imagine how much they cost. In fact, the entire level of detailing in here is exceptional. Look, like this lovely bronze light here, this marble, the beautiful stonework everywhere. It just exudes money. And I suppose it signifies the importance that the state places in this institution. But actually, this is nothing, because I'm off to see the architectural crown jewels of the Bank of England. I'm heading to the first floor, which is home to some truly spectacular rooms. The first of these is a luxurious space with silk-lined walls called the anteroom, and it was and still is used for entertaining guests. But the anteroom is just a prelude to the rooms that follow. Now just look at this. What a room. Beautiful, elegant piece of interior design. Now this is actually the courtroom, because where most companies would have a board of directors, the Bank of England has a court of directors, so not boardroom, courtroom. And it's a strange piece of architecture because it's an amalgamation of parts of the original courtroom from the late 18th century building that were moved upstairs in the refurbishment in the 1920s. So bits and pieces are original, bits and pieces have been added. But it's incredibly grand. I mean, look at this ceiling. And up here is, I think, one of the most interesting features of the room. There's a gauge which is connected to a weather vane on the roof. And the whole idea behind that is that when, back in the day, the wind blew from the east, it meant the boats could make it up the Thames to deliver their goods. And that would mean that people wanted to buy the goods and the bank would need to produce more money to pay for the goods. So in a way, this is one of the first instruments of monetary policy. Isn't that wonderful? 2 centuries later, monetary policy is still at the forefront of the Bank of England's activities. It's what makes the room I'm about to see one of the most important in Britain. This is the MPC room. It's where the Monetary Policy Committee meet once a month to decide whether interest rates should go up, go down, or stay the same. And so the decisions made here affect all of our lives, the cost of our mortgages or the amount we make off our savings. The 9 members of the committee sit here with Mervyn King, the governor, sat over in that chair, and they discuss the way they see the economy and then make their decisions accordingly. So in many ways, this is where the British economy is steered from. The decisions made in this room affect the economy, and they're nice surroundings to make those heavyweight decisions. Seems kind of apt to end this little tour around the Bank of England in possibly its most important room. You too can see the MPC room along with the court and ante-room once a year as part of the open house weekend. You'll get to admire the impressive entrance halls and corridors, but I'm afraid those vaults will always be completely off limits. Well, that was a real treat. It's an incredible, unique piece of architecture. That blank, fortress-like facade gives you very little clues of the incredible citadel beyond. I've been lucky enough to get in there today, and you too can get in there as a part of open house, so don't miss it. Make the effort, come on down. You won't be disappointed. It's just a short walk from the Bank of England to my next money building, but in terms of architecture, I might as well be jetting onto another planet. It's probably one of the most radical buildings ever made, and when I was given a book about high-tech architecture in the 80s, it was on the cover, and I was hooked. It is, of course, Lloyds of London by Richard Rogers. Lloyds of London began in a coffee shop in 1688 and is now the world's leading specialist insurance market. It may be one of the oldest names in insurance, but their building is a striking vision of the future. Lloyds was designed by Rogers in 1977 and completed 9 years later at a cost of £186 million. Its architecture celebrates the engineering aesthetic, featuring enough stainless steel to cover 4 football pitches and over 50 miles of external piping. The building has often been described as inside out, and that in many ways is exactly what it is, because normally in an office building you'd have the plant, that's the air conditioning and the electrics and the toilets and the staircases and the lifts, all in the middle of the building with a ring of offices around it. Here they've turned that inside out, so you've got plant here, you've got all this ductwork, this piping, these are toilet blocks stacked up there. Here you've got these beautiful staircases, and this makes it look like a machine, which is very apt, because that's exactly what it is, a machine to make money. In a way, the design of this building was a huge risk for an established insurance company to take, but then again, insurance is all about taking and understanding risk. It may be a risky business, but at Lloyds, some conventions are still observed. In order to get into the main room at Lloyds, I need to wear a suit and a tie, so I've got to have a quick change. That's better. I hope I passed the dress code. I'm ready to go behind closed doors and see what's inside this incredible piece of architecture. Lloyds is basically a marketplace for insurance. It's where individual firms come and broker deals. The different insurance firms trading in Lloyds market, known as syndicates, made a staggering profit of £3.8 billion last year. And the place where all that multi-million-pound trading happens is the underwriting floor, known as the room. But it's also home to some pieces of Lloyds history, like the 200-year-old Lutein bell, which used to be rung when ships were lost, and the traditionally dressed waiters, a name that stuck from the days when Lloyds was a coffee shop. What other duties do you undertake here?
We pass messages from brokers to underwriters via the calling system. We also try to police the dress code within Lloyds.
I take it I pass.
You pass.
Really? That's
yes.
nice to know.
Yes, you pass.
I have to say, it's very impressive, the dress code, because this cameraman here is in a suit and tie, and that's the first time I've ever seen a cameraman in a suit and tie. What other duties do you have?
Well, one of the other jobs that I have to do at Lloyds is filling in the lost books.
Right. Is that what these great big tomes are?
That's what these big tomes are, yes.
All handwritten?
All handwritten. Still written by...
Oh, my word.
With quill.
Look at that. That's a quill. I've never actually seen a quill before. Go on then, let's have a look at your handiwork.
I'll have to put my glasses on, I'm afraid.
Fine, that's okay. The lost book is used to record any ships that are lost at sea. Fortunately, these days that's rare, but Bob still fills in the date every day just in case.
People have asked me on numerous occasions what the secret is of getting it right, and of course it's the way you hold your tongue out. You have to have your tongue in the right place.
Right, okay. What's this book over here?
This is the same book, but from 100 years ago today.
Okay.
And this is just one day, the 28th of July, 1908.
Lovely book, isn't it? Lovely book.
And you'll see that we've lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nine ships.
In a day.
In 100 years' time, this book will be brought out and it will be placed here.
Okay.
And it will be my writing that they see.
Yeah.
The Lutein Bell, the Lost Books, they're all part of the traditions which make Lloyds what it is today.
There's a real mix of old and new at Lloyds, and the ultimate example of that is a secret room which I'll be showing you later. But first, I've decided to go up in the world. Now, I'm lucky enough to have been in this building once before, about 8 or 9 years ago, and one of the key memories I have is this lift ride, because you start deep in the basement in the ground, and then you erupt out over the rooftops and you get the most extraordinary view of London. It is fantastic. The 12 external glass lifts at Lloyds were the first of their type in the UK, and I could spend all day enjoying the ride. But I'm heading for the 11th floor gallery to look down on the building's 245-foot high central atrium. Now, in many ways, this is the money shot of the whole building. It is superb. I can see down about 11 stories, right down to the rostrum at the bottom there, through this incredible light-filled atrium, which even on a grey day like today is flooded with natural daylight, getting it into those offices there, which normally wouldn't get any light, being in the heart of the building. It also shows you the genius, the flexibility of the whole design, because as there needs to be more trading floors, they can just expand up the building and then go back down the building as the insurance market ebbs and flows. And on the top of it sits this glazed arch. And I can't help thinking that its design is something to do with Crystal Palace, the great 1851 building that in many ways was the first truly modernist building. So I wonder if Rogers was kind of doffing his hat to that design. My tour of Lloyds is almost complete, but there's still one secret room to see. And after all the modernity of the rest of the building, it's a bit of a shock. And you wait until you see what's in here. What an extraordinary room. This is the Adam Room, designed by the hugely influential architect Robert Adam in 1763 for Bowood House, bought by Lloyds in the mid-1950s and then installed here in the 80s. It's extraordinary, surreal, and beautiful. I mean, look at the quality of the plasterwork. And I love the fact it's in this building. It's almost like when Lloyds moved home, they couldn't help taking that slightly dusty old sofa with them. They couldn't quite shed that image of themselves, of their past. Lloyds of London is a huge attraction, but it's rarely open to the public. However, you can visit once a year as part of the Open House Weekend architecture event. The thing I have to keep reminding myself is that this building was designed 30 years ago, yet it still feels so extraordinarily contemporary. And you have to put it in a context. Back in the 80s, architecture had rejected modernism. It was looking to classical design for its inspiration. And along came this building and showed that not only was high-tech good, but it was a suitable symbol for a powerful, old-fashioned financial organisation like Lloyds. But in the bigger picture, it reignited London's love affair with modern architecture and paved the way for buildings like this. Lloyds certainly took a giant risk with its architecture, but it wasn't the first financial business to do so. 100 years earlier, in the northwest of England, a similarly famous financial institution made a very bold statement with its new headquarters. And many people actually loathed it when it was finished. But it has since gone on to become a defining image for the city in which it sits. Welcome to Britain's sixth biggest city, Liverpool. In the early 19th century, an incredible 40% of the world's trade came through this city's thriving docks, making them the busiest and most famous on Earth. But by the early 20th century, those glory days were over. But Liverpool's port was still prime land, and it was the perfect place to build what is now the city's most famous building. And this is it, the Liver building. It's been dominating Liverpool's skyline since it was completed in 1911, and you can visit it as part of Heritage Open Days. Over the years, the Liver building has found a place in the people's hearts, and a century after its construction, it's a valuable part of Liverpool's identity.
The building itself is an icon for the city and the people of the city.
It means a lot to a lot of people, especially from Liverpool.
It means home to me, basically.
Started in 1850 to provide burial insurance for the working man, the Royal Liver Insurance Group now manages £4 billion worth of funds each year. A century ago, the company bought a plot of prime land and set about creating one of Britain's first skyscrapers. Now, up until the start of the 20th century, all big buildings were made out of load-bearing masonry, brick or stone. And the problem with that is if you want to go tall, 8, 9, 10 stories, by the time you get up to that height, the amount of weight going down through the building means that the ground floor has to have enormous amounts of structure and basically no usable space. This building takes a completely different strategy. It's got a reinforced concrete frame, which means it's got concrete with steel rods inside of it to make an incredibly stiff, strong structure. Now that seems very normal and everyday to us now, but at the time, it was totally revolutionary. This technique enabled architect Walter A. Thomas to build high and build fast. The 13-storey, 295 feet high Liver building went from paper to completion in just 3 years. But why did the Royal Liver build such a big building, especially when their employees only needed 2 floors of it? Well, they understood that they had a prime site in one of the busiest ports in the world. And they thought that if they built a bigger building, they could rent out space to other people and make even more money. On top of that, they realised that if they could construct a big building that was a huge statement and had an impact on the skyline of this city, it would be a powerful piece of built advertising. Very clever. Now, I'm hoping to get up onto that roof and have a look at the towers up there. But first, let's check out inside. Wow. Look at this space, it's really opulent and lavish. Look at all the plasterwork on the ceiling and the marble everywhere. Now, apparently this is all Spanish marble. The floor is Argentinian marble. You've got a white, a green, and a kind of blue cheese. I mean, it's a very lavish space. Of course, you've got to realise when this building was built, the Royal Liver Friendly Society was one of the most successful financial institutions in this country, so they needed a lobby that said as much. So it needed to be flash, it needed to be glitzy, and this is certainly all of those things. After the break, I'll be getting extra special access to the roof, where all is not as it seems. Oh, I feel slightly cheated. And finding out which financial institution would build a room like this. Welcome back to Behind Closed Doors, a celebration of architecture that each day takes you on a different Access All Areas tour of some of our finest buildings. Today I'm going behind the doors of some of the UK's greatest financial institutions. So I've come to Liverpool for a magical mystery tour of the Liver building, which was one of Britain's first skyscrapers. and I'm heading for the skies myself to inspect the famous copper and bronze liver birds that stand on the top of the clock towers. With a wingspan of 24 feet, the liver birds are a cross between an eagle and a cormorant. The female bird looks out to sea, while the male bird watches over the city. And maintenance manager John Waring watches over both of them.
Just mind your head.
It's quite windy, isn't it?
Just a bit. Yeah.
What's that humming? Is that...
That's actually from the electric clocks. It's all the transformers that you can hear buzzing away from the big speakers inside. That's where they chime the clocks these days.
Oh, it's a speaker.
There's no actually bells.
There's
no actual bells.
Oh, I
Sorry,
thought
no
slightly
bells.
cheating.
They made it for bells, but
they
were
never hung
fitted.
them.
Never hung
The
them.
bells might not be the real deal, but the birds certainly are. So you stand on this tower and look at that bird, and
You
that
stand-
tower and look at this bird?
Correct, yeah.
I got it.
Do you want to have a little
Yeah,
look
let's
at
have a look.
yourself? You'll have to view yourself in on it.
Big old thing, isn't it? How big is it when you get up next to it?
18 foot high.
What? 3 times as tall as me?
Yeah.
What? It's huge.
It is, yeah. It is
Have you
18
been up
foot.
right next to it?
I've not been up next to it, no. that is steeplejack's sort of area up there.
What are we looking for then?
The actual structure's held down by wires and that, and sometimes they can go a little bit slack.
So you're looking for flapping in the wires,
Flapping in,
and then it
especially
might
today.
start moving.
It's nice and windy today, so you would see that, you see.
It's a good
But
view,
while
isn't
I'm
it?
here, I'll just have a quick look myself, shall I?
Might as well.
Yeah, everything looks sound. All right.
They may not be real bells, but you can certainly hear them all right. Built around a century ago, the Liver building was intended to be a powerful piece of advertising as the skyscraping offices of an insurance company. Yet it has become not only a powerful symbol of Liverpool, but a national icon. And the bizarre thing is that that building and those birds are probably now more famous than the company who built it. And you can get behind these closed doors too, though I'm afraid you won't be allowed to go up on the roof with John. But do try and make a date to come along as part of the annual Heritage Open Days. My next port of call on this money-inspired journey may not be as famous as the Liver building, but it was recently voted the 24th most beautiful building in Britain. If I was to tell you that it cost £41,561, 3 shillings and 0 pence to build, I'd be giving you a big clue as to where I am. It's the Institute of Chartered Accountants. This building in the City of London was designed by Sir John Belcher in 1890, 10 years after the Institute of Chartered Accountants was formed. It's tucked away in a tiny back street near Moorgate Station, and I reckon it might be one of the capital's best-kept secrets. There is a rather simplistic stereotype that all accountants are a bit dull and conservative. And this building is anything but. It's an exuberant building that shouts money from its very cornice down to the bottom here. It is one of the finest examples of Victorian Baroque anywhere in this country. Here you've got this incredible Baroque entrance with the curved pediment here, and then all of these scoops and complicated shapes. And that's exactly typical of the Baroque style, whereas Renaissance architecture is quite simplistic and classical. They just got more and more complicated with Baroque, more exuberant, more joyful. There's bags of references to classical theology and religion, so the whole building exudes this sense of authority and trust. And that's exactly what the Institute of Chartered Accountants wanted, because when they commissioned the building, they were still trying to establish themselves as a serious financial organisation. They needed a building that outwardly promoted their values and projected an image of wealth and success. And boy, did they achieve it. That exterior is truly spectacular, but why don't you come with me inside where it gets even better? Because if anything, the decadence on show outside is amplified on the inside. The Institute of Chartered Accountants' role is to maintain standards in an industry that's worth over £7 billion a year. Trainee accountants must take a grueling set of exams if they want to become one of the Institute's 130,000 members. But it's a prestigious club to be part of. The Institute has a list of former presidents that reads like a who's who of accountancy. Sharon Gunn is the Director of Members Services, and she believes Belcher's building has played a vital role in the ICA's history.
In 1889, we were a very young profession, and it was very important that the building portrayed our standing in the community. And so I think they very deliberately designed a very flamboyant building to put us on the very same standing as some of the older professions who'd been around a lot longer, like law and medicine. I think you never forget how beautiful it is, because not a day will go past where we may be working in the office and you may be very busy, but you'll have someone come and visit you or someone walk through the door, and the reaction you get makes you remember every day what a special building it is.
When Belcher designed this building, the fledgling institute took a huge risk and ploughed every penny they had into making it as opulent as possible. And the result is a building that surprises and delights at every turn. You get a real taste of Belcher's sense of drama on the outside of this building and the very clear Italian influence. But that reaches a new level here in the library. And especially with this, the balustrade bridge. Now, originally there were books up here, but when Belcher was designing the building, he went out to Venice and got very inspired by what he saw there. So he saw the Rialto Bridge and thought, well, if they've got one, why don't we? And this is it. It's a copy of that famous landmark. In fact, the whole room is a bit like Caesar's palace in Vegas goes Italian. It's a little bit bonkers, especially when you've got these metal Venetian-style lanterns complete with a little ICA, Institute of Chartered Accountant flag on the top and these little cherubs. Just finishes off the whole bonkers ensemble. But actually, this room was just Belcher warming up. If you think it's over the top, you wait until you see upstairs. Not to mention what's on the way. This is a very grand and actually very intricate staircase. There's an awful lot going on. You've got these twin columns, which is a classic Renaissance feature. And then up here, you've got these amazing lumps of carved stone sticking out of the wall. And then all the load is actually being transferred down through each step to the bottom here. So it looks like there's almost nothing holding it up. And then right in the very roof, you've got this lozenge-shaped roof light. And this is absolutely classic Baroque style. Whereas the Renaissance really liked circles, Baroque Renaissance went to lozenges and ovals. That was their signature shape. Classic stuff. I'm making my way to the main reception room, where I'm told the building's Baroque and Renaissance influences reach epic proportions. En route, though, there's another room I want to see. This is the small reception room. Now, it certainly isn't the most opulent room in this building, but there's a very good reason why I've brought you in here, because it has witnessed a significant historical event. It was here that a certain Brown, Blair, Mandelson, Campbell and Beckett came together to argue and decide the course of the New Labour project. Why they chose this place, I have no idea, but it's quite incredible to think that quite a large part of the course of this country's history over the last decade was decided just here. Amazing. The small reception is just an interesting diversion, though, because the real highlight of this building is the final room on my tour. Right, now this is the main reception, which I'm led to believe is where it gets special. Oh yeah. Look at this. What a room. We've got to hand it to those Victorians and accountants. They certainly don't do things by half. The architecture is actually very interesting because it's influenced by early Renaissance churches. You can see it's all about these kind of half domes and circles. And just here you can see something that's got one of my favourite names in architecture. It's called a squinch. And a squinch is a very clever little device which takes a square floor plan, here you can see the 4 columns, and allows it to be turned into a circular ring to then pick up this rotunda and dome above. And each of the 4 squinches is decorated with a little vignette, a little tableau and a word. This one is veritas, which means truth. Over here you have prudentia, which is prudence. This one here is justice, and then sapienta, which I believe is wisdom. This incredible space was created as the Institute's courtroom, and disciplinary hearings would be held here if any members had acted improperly or brought the profession into disrepute. But like many of the rooms in this building, form was far more important than function. The whole room feels a bit like a stage set. It's certainly very over the top, but it is quite magnificent. The Institute of Chartered Accountants is an incredible building, but is rarely open to the public. One chance to see it is the annual open house architecture event in London. This building is a really unexpected treat. I mean, who would think that the Institute of Chartered Accountants would have such a wonderful piece of architecture? The facade, the staircase, and that main reception room are really jaw-dropping. I tell you what, it's definitely worth a visit. All of the money institutions and buildings we've seen today have one thing in common. They've used architecture to show just how wealthy they are. But the next building I'm about to see here in Finsbury Square in London uses a different strategy. It's more like a wolf in sheep's clothing, because this rather genteel exterior belies the futuristic alternative reality that lies beyond these walls. Come with me, hold on to your hats. Welcome to the turbocharged world of Bloomberg, a multimedia company that provides information on financial markets. The work going on here affects billions of dollars of transactions every day. Now, normally you or I would not be allowed in here apart from during the open house weekend when anyone can come and have a look. What I want to see is how the architecture of this building reflects what's going on here. The currency they're dealing with is data and information. So how has the building been designed to fit that function? Bloomberg is an information business, and there is information literally everywhere. There are TV screens and computer monitors surrounding me. Look, there's a huge bank over there. There's one on every side of all of these columns. And over here, come and have a look at this. This is the staff canteen. Get a coffee, have a piece of fruit. Come and sit down. And even here, down here. I even had to use the toilet earlier on. I was washing my hands, looked in the mirror. There was a TV screen there. There really are screens everywhere. It's almost a bit Big Brother. You can feel slightly bombarded by information here, but that is, of course, exactly the point. The building is designed so that the people who work here are plugged into information at every turn. This is a little bit strange. Walking on computer screens as if we hadn't seen enough already, and then you come through this extraordinary red glassy box and oh wow, look at this. That is really impressive. I have no idea where I am. I just think I'm somewhere in the future. Coming up, I'll be heading to the top of that mighty, impressive atrium. That is putting butterflies in my stomach. And seeing the TV studios where Bloomberg broadcasts from in the basement of the building. Action. Welcome back to Behind Closed Doors. Today I'm looking at buildings associated with money. The institutions that drive our economy and where the lucky few get very, very rich. Behind Closed Doors offers an opportunity to explore buildings that would usually be closed to the public, but which open their doors once a year as part of a series of very special British architectural and heritage events. The doors I'm going behind today transport us inside buildings that deal with money. My final building in today's show is the offices of Bloomberg, a company which makes over £1 billion a year, providing round-the-clock financial information. This brave new world of information occupies two buildings. On the left is a neoclassical building from the 1920s, and on the right a 1990s office block designed by Norman Foster. When the company bought these buildings, they knocked them into one and gave the interior a complete makeover. Now this is a meeting room right at the very top of the atrium on the 6th floor. And oh yeah, I can see right down through the heart of the building, and that is putting butterflies in my stomach. Quite an incredible space. The whole idea of it is to bring lots of natural light right into the heart of the building, but also to increase awareness of the other floors, to increase connectivity between the various activities within the building. This company's business is all about the flow of information, and so the building is designed to encourage the flow of people. There are lots of funky spaces to sit and chat, perfect for exchanging information and ideas, or just having a good gossip. There are lots of different sized meeting rooms all over the place, all transparent. The floor plans are open plans, so you can see everyone on the floor. There's nowhere to hide, and each of the different floors is colour-coded to help you have a sense of navigation around the building. Down in the basement, Bloomberg runs a European arm of its TV network. Even down here, there's a sense of openness and transparency. The journalists aren't shut away in dark boxes. The studios are, in fact, glassy boxes, so you really get a sense of what's going on. The broadcasts are controlled here in the gallery, where producers, editors and technicians make sure all the information gets onto the network straight away. Action. This is Charlie Luxton broadcasting live from London. The architecture of Bloomberg isn't the most radical or exciting, although it does feel like a very lively, dynamic place to be. In some ways, it's the interior design touches and the computer screens everywhere that make it feel very modern and futuristic. Architecturally, it's a bit of a one-trick pony. Great big slabs of office space glued together around that amazing atrium. And no matter how many groovy sofas or fish tanks you put in it, you can't quite disguise that fact. Well, you can make your own mind up by paying Bloomberg a visit, and the annual open house weekend is the perfect opportunity. Well, what a journey we've been on today, from that great bastion of finance, the Bank of England, to the high-tech, market-driven world of Bloomberg, the clash of old and new at Lloyds of London, and the way the Liver building went from pariah to poster boy for an entire city. And of course, the mind-blowing opulence of the Institute of Chartered Accountants. Now, what I find fascinating is the way in which architecture not only can be important for the day-to-day running of a business and its success, but it can also transcend this functionality and become about communicating the values and ideas behind an organisation, which is key in the cut-and-thrust, go-get-'em world of international finance. Do join us again on Behind Closed Doors. There are plenty more treats in store as we continue our celebration of the best of British architecture. Don't miss it.